They thought freedom was within their grasp. The fugitives had planned every detail. The stolen vehicle, the hidden safe houses, the new identities waiting just across the border. They were ready to do whatever it took to disappear. That's why, when they saw a lone woman jogging along a remote trail, they didn't hesitate. She was just another victim, just another pawn in their escape. Bruised and exhausted, she looked like an easy target. But appearances can be deceiving. They had no idea they had just taken Eleanor Elle Briggs, a Delta Force commander with over 20 successful missions in some of the most dangerous war zones in the world. What started as a simple kidnapping would spiral into a nationwide manhunt, turning hunter into hunted. The men who once thought they were in control would watch their carefully laid plans crumble. Safe houses compromised, allies dismantled, one by one. This isn't just the story of a woman surviving against impossible odds. This is the story of how 8 ruthless criminals thought they had won, until they realized they had kidnapped the worst possible person. Elle pushed herself harder, her feet hitting the dirt trail in a steady rhythm. She had been running for over an hour, the cool morning air filling her lungs as she kept her pace. The national park stretched for miles in every direction, nothing but thick forest surrounding her. That isolation had been part of the appeal. After years of military service, always surrounded by people, always on edge, running gave her something rare: silence. A time to think, a time to breathe. But something fell off. A flicker of movement caught her eye to the right, a shadow shifting between the trees. She didn't react. Her breathing stayed controlled, her pace steady. She wasn't armed. She wasn't expecting trouble. But instincts honed from years in combat told her something wasn't right. The forest had been alive with the sounds of birds and insects just moments ago. Now it was silent. Ahead, off the trail, a black SUV was parked at an awkward angle near the tree line. The driver's side door hung open. She slowed, pretending to check her watch. The vehicle was covered in dust, the license plate barely readable. No one sat inside, but she could sense movement near the trees. More than one person. Then she heard the footsteps behind her. Elle turned, and a man was already lunging. She sidestepped at the last second, letting him stumble forward. He was tall, thick arms covered in tattoos, his face sunburned and unshaven. She barely had time to register him before 2 more men stepped out from the trees, blocking the trail. Another emerged from behind the SUV. 8 in total. She scanned them quickly. Torn prison uniforms mixed with stolen civilian clothes. Makeshift weapons, pipes, a crowbar, a hunting knife. They looked like they had been on the run for days, but that didn't make them any less dangerous. A man with slick back hair stepped forward. He was leaner than the others, but there was confidence in the way he carried himself. He smirked. "No need to run. You're exactly what we need." Elle's muscles tensed. She didn't know who they were or what they wanted, but one thing was clear: they had been waiting for her. She wasn't going to let them take her without a fight. Her stance remained neutral, her breathing steady, but her mind was already working. 8 men, all rough, all tense, all expecting her to react a certain way. They had her surrounded, cutting off the path ahead and blocking her retreat behind. It wasn't a sloppy formation, but it wasn't professional either. These weren't trained men. They were hardened by something else: prison. The leader stepped forward just enough to establish himself as the one in charge. His slick back hair and worn leather jacket gave him the look of someone who thought he was untouchable. The way the others lingered behind him, waiting for his reaction, told her everything she needed to know. He was the one calling the shots. "You're a long way from help," he said smoothly. His voice was calm, almost friendly. But Elle knew better than to be fooled by that kind of tone. Not exactly a good place to be alone, wouldn't you say? Elle didn't flinch, didn't look away. She had spent too much time in too many dangerous places to be intimidated by men who thought their numbers made them powerful. "Seems to me you're the ones with the problem," she said evenly. A few of them chuckled, but it was the kind of laugh that didn't reach their eyes. The leader smirked, tilting his head slightly. You don't know what's going on, do you? He gestured lazily toward the SUV. Take a guess. She didn't need to. She had already figured it out. You broke out of prison? The smirk widened. That's right. 8 of us, fresh out. And wouldn't you know it? The whole damn state is on high alert. Cops everywhere. Roadblocks. Patrols. Ain't exactly the kind of welcome wagon we were hoping for. And I'm supposed to care because? The man's grin stretched wider, but there was a sharpness behind it now. Because we need a way through. We need someone to help us get past the roadblocks, past the cops. And look at that. He spread his arms like it was fate. Right place, right time. One of the other men, a stocky guy with a crooked nose and a fading black eye, crossed his arms. I still think we should just take her stuff and move on. You think we're just going to walk through a roadblock looking like this? The leader shot him a look. We need a damn reason to be there. She's it. Another man, wiry and sunburned, muttered, She's a runner. Ain't gonna help us. She ain't just a runner, a deeper voice rumbled. Elle turned slightly toward the one who had spoken. A massive man with a thick build and a shaved head. Bigger than the others, broader. The kind of person who didn't need to carry a weapon because his body was the weapon. He had been watching her closely, and Elle knew exactly what he had seen. The way she had kept her feet positioned, the way she hadn't panicked, the way she had sized them up the moment they surrounded her. He had picked up on it. The leader turned to him. Something you want to share, Brick? The big man, Travis Brick Walker, didn't take his eyes off Elle. She's not scared. The others didn't seem to know what to make of that. Elle stayed quiet, letting the moment settle, letting them wrestle with the fact that she wasn't reacting the way they expected. It don't matter, the leader said after a moment, brushing it off. She don't gotta be scared. She just has to cooperate. Elle exhaled slowly. And if I don't? The leader sighed, running a hand through his slicked back hair. Lady, don't make this harder than it needs to be. Elle didn't move. That's not an answer. The leader was about to respond when one of the men, a younger guy radiating nervous energy, took a step forward. What if she tells the cops? His voice had an edge of panic in it. What if she gives us up? The leader turned his head slightly, looking at him over his shoulder. You planning to let her go? The younger man hesitated, then shook his head. I'm just saying, man, this is stupid. This ain't part of the plan. We were supposed to get out, lay low, find a way to move without heat. This is asking for heat. She's our way through. The leader repeated, his voice losing patience. We take her, we use her to get past the roadblocks, then we dump her. Simple. The younger man's voice wavered slightly. Dump her where? The leader turned fully now, his smirk gone. You ask too many damn questions. Elle was watching closely, listening to every shift in tone. The younger one was afraid. That meant weakness. And Elle never wasted an opportunity. Elle kept her breathing controlled, her wrists bound tightly behind her back as the van rumbled over rough terrain. The fugitives thought they had won, but they had only made one of the biggest mistakes of their lives, letting her live. The inside of the vehicle was thick with tension. Vinny, the slick-haired leader, sat in the front passenger seat, pretending he was in control, but Elle had already seen the cracks in his confidence. Rust, the driver, was gripping the wheel too tightly, his jaw clenched, irritation in his every movement. Slim, the nervous one, kept shifting in his seat, fingers twitching near the pistol he had tucked into his waistband. And then there was Brick. He sat close behind her, arms crossed, his breathing slow and steady. He hadn't said much since they tied her up, but Elle knew his type. Not the kind to talk unless he had something worth saying. He was the most dangerous one here. Vinny exhaled loudly, tapping his fingers on the dashboard. All right, here's how this is gonna go, he said. We get past the next checkpoint, we find somewhere quiet to regroup, and then we figure out our next move. No screw-ups. No surprises. Rust let out a scoff. Yeah? And what if this genius plan of yours doesn't work? Vinny shot him a glare. It'll work. Slim shifted uneasily. I still think keeping her is a mistake. She's a liability, man. Vinny turned in his seat, smirking. Nah, she's insurance. Long as we have her, we got a shot at getting through clean. Nobody's gonna suspect a couple of guys traveling with their girl. Elle kept her expression neutral, letting them talk. Let them think they were in control. Rust let out a humorless laugh. Yeah? And what happens after we get through? We just let her go. You think she's gonna keep her mouth shut? Vinny hesitated just long enough for Elle to catch it. Brick finally spoke. His deep voice cut through the cabin like a blade. She ain't just some runner. The van went silent. Vinny frowned. What the hell are you talking about? Brick's dark eyes stayed locked on Elle. She fights too well. Moves too fast. She ain't just some weekend warrior out here for a jog. Slim swallowed hard. Wait, what are you saying? Brick exhaled slowly, leaning forward slightly. I'm saying we might have grabbed the wrong woman. For the first time, real doubt flickered across Vinny's face. Elle finally spoke, her voice calm, measured. You figured that out a little late. Vinny turned fully in his seat, studying her now with real scrutiny. Who the hell are you? Elle tilted her head slightly. Does it matter? Rust cursed under his breath. This ain't good, man. If she's someone important, if she's got people looking for her. Vinny cut him off. It doesn't change the plan. Slim let out a nervous laugh. The hell it doesn't. If she's military or something, they're not just gonna let this slide. Elle could feel it now, the doubt, the fractures forming between them. Good. Vinny turned back to her, his smirk returning, but it was forced now. Doesn't matter. She's tied up in the back of a van in the middle of nowhere. She ain't doing anything to stop us. Elle met his gaze evenly. You sure about that? Before Vinny could respond, Rust cursed. Shit. We got a problem. Ahead. The faint glow of red and blue lights cut through the night. Another roadblock. Vinny let out a slow breath, rolling his shoulders. All right. Everybody stay calm. We do this just like last time. Elle, you're gonna sit up front. You play nice, you smile, and we all get through clean. Slim exhaled sharply. Man, this is a bad idea. Shut up, Vinny snapped. Brick, untie her. Brick hesitated for half a second before reaching for her wrists. His grip was firm, the rope digging into Elle's skin as he loosened it just enough to free her arms. Elle rolled her shoulders, shaking off the stiffness, keeping her movements slow, controlled. She wasn't ready to make her move yet. Not here. Not when the odds were still against her. Vinny turned to her, voice low. You try anything, I will put a bullet in you myself. Got it? Elle smiled. Sure. The van rolled forward. As they approached the checkpoint, an officer stepped into view, flashlight in hand. Evening, the officer said, scanning the inside of the vehicle. Where you folks headed? Vinny gave an easy chuckle. Just passing through. Long drive. The officer's gaze flicked to Elle. You all right, miss? Elle forced a small smile. Yeah, just tired. The officer studied her for a long moment. Too long. And then, behind them, another officer approached the back of the van. Slim's fingers twitched toward his pistol. Elle felt it before it happened. The situation was about to explode. A second later, the officer at the back knocked on the van. Step out of the vehicle. Vinny's entire body tensed. What's the problem, officer? Now. Elle moved first. She slammed her elbow into Vinny's throat, cutting off whatever he was about to say. At the same time, she grabbed the wheel, yanking it hard. The van swerved. Chaos erupted. Slim panicked, pulling his gun, but Elle was already moving, slamming his wrist into the dashboard, making the weapon clatter to the floor. Russ shouted, trying to regain control of the van. Brick lunged for her. Elle twisted, using the momentum of the swerve to drive her knee into his ribs. He grunted, absorbing the blow, but she wasn't done. The van skidded. Tires screeched. And then impact. The van crashed into the checkpoint barrier. Glass shattered. Elle barely had time to react before the door was yanked open, hands grabbing her, pulling her out. The officers had moved fast, dragging her clear of the wreckage. Gunfire erupted behind her. The fugitives weren't giving up without a fight. Elle hit the ground, rolling to cover, her heart hammering. This was it. Everything had changed. She wasn't just a hostage anymore. She was the one hunting them now, and they had no idea what was coming.